Former National Security Advisor Susan Rice, along with the rest of the Obama administration, was accused of using intelligence for political purposes. Now, the former National Security Advisor Susan Rice stated that the allegations were false and that she never leaked reports. Also in other news, Vice President Mike Pence met with three group of heads in the Republican Party to come up with a new health care repeal. Some of the things discussed will still have some ultimate effects for U.S. citizens, and a chemical attack on Syria left 72 people dead, hundreds injured, and President Trump blaming Syria's president along with the Obama administration for the attack. Here now to discuss more on these issues, we welcome now BMCC professor J.C. Polanco and owner of Retrovision Media, Lee Bynes, and they're all both our political commentators. Good to have you here in studio. And
good morning.
Good morning. And let's kick things off. We talked about the Susan Rice controversy, and I'll start off first with you, Lee, as we talk about that. She's saying, listen, when it comes to leaks and intelligence, we had nothing to do there. Your thoughts on her comments?
Well, you know what? This particular issue is fodder for the Republicans right now, and they think that they could get a lot of juice out of it. But I actually saw that exclusive interview with Rice with Andrea Mitchell on MSNBC. And basically speaking, what this comes down to is a matter of credibility and who sounds reasonable. And from what I saw and I was able to understand, she sounded reasonable and credible. If I have to compare that to what's coming out of the White House and what's been coming out of the White House and Trump for the last 6 to 8 weeks, is unreasonable and a lack of credibility. So how this thing is going to go forward, it's difficult to say. But Susan Rice was in the crosshairs 2 years ago with regards to the Benghazi investigation. They weren't able to pin anything on her or the administration then, and I doubt very seriously they're going to do it now.
Susan Rice has no credibility with the American people, if they're honest. The reality is that 2 years ago, she did in fact lie to the American people about Benghazi. She went on TV and told us that it was because of a video. She didn't say it was a terrorist attack. She knew it was a terrorist attack. You know who else knew it was a terrorist attack? Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama both knew that the diplomat and the ambassador died in Benghazi because of a terrorist attack having nothing to do with the video. Look, this lady right now is in a bad situation. Why? Because she was doing her job. Her job is to review security information. And while reviewing security information, she wanted to unmask certain names that she came across. The problem is this. This is a double-edged sword from my side. Why was there intelligence information coming in? Was it really President Obama wanting to spy on the transition team? Or was it that we had our eyes on some Russian malfeasance and nefarious conversations that were happening between the Russians and the Trump transition team? So it's very difficult. It's a very difficult time, and if you want to pin this on Susan Rice, you have to be sure that the information that we were getting was because President Obama simply wanted to spy, and it wasn't because of some investigation into the conversations that were happening. What's even more concerning from my side is that Chairman Nunes of the Intelligence Committee in the House of Representatives says that there were some FISA warrants. Well, first, he should never have said there were FISA warrants, but now that he opened Pandora's box, the only way we get those FISA warrants is if there's probable cause for this to happen. Now, I think that the staff at the White House were unaware of this. When they give this to Nunes and tell him to tell the people, they found themselves in a bad position, because what was a probable cause that allowed for this judge to issue a FISA warrant for us to investigate the conversations that were happening between the transition team and these Russian diplomats? I think this is a tough time for everyone. We need to have a thorough investigation. For all we know, President Obama could have been involved in some spying. I doubt it, but let's say, or President Trump was in collusion with the Russians. Again, the investigation is going to allow for us to come up with something.
And the only way that we're going to get anywhere on this is if the investigation is taken out of the hands of a Republican-led Congress,
that's not fair.
and placed into
an
independent.
Lee, I know why you would say that, but
well,
you could change. No. I see why you would say that. Nunes has lost a lot of credibility with going to the public with this information. So I see what you were saying. But when you castigate all of the Republicans in the Intelligence Committee because of the acts of the chairman, I think that's not fair, considering that you have Republicans that have also asked for him to step down. So you can have a fair investigation from this committee. I think it's up to the chairman to change his ways. He's already apologized. Let's see what he does in the next couple of days. If he goes back to his partisan ways, I think it's going to be tough to get a fair investigation.
We'll talk about partisanship. We'll talk about the Obamacare, Trumpcare 2.0. A lot has been said about what's going on. We know the Affordable Care Act, the repeal of the Affordable Care Act did not have enough and sufficient votes to make it out of Congress. But yet and still, the Republicans now talking about they're still going to come up with another proposal. And they're saying there could be more expensive health insurance for people with pre-existing conditions. What are we learning more about this, Lee?
Pretty much what I've been saying the last 5 or 6 weeks I've come on this show is that there is no Republican plan. There never has been a Republican plan. The fact that Paul Ryan stated yesterday that they're still in the consulting stages, 8 years into promising the nation that they were going to replace Obamacare, repeal or replace it. What you're listening to right now from the White House and the Republicans on the right is a stall game. These people Friday will be leaving for vacation, vacation for 2 weeks to go back home and have to face their constituents and have to explain to them why they went to Washington and failed to do what they said that they were going to do. So this gives them a little breathing space, at least for a couple of weeks, to tamp down the arguments and the fights that they're going to have with town hall meetings, and they'll face what they have to face when they come back. Right now, oh, go on. I'm sorry.
JC has a very
look. The reality is this: I think Obamacare has been good for about 24 million people. And it has, because it has supported people who never had health insurance before and those that had pre-existing conditions. But this is the tough news for Democrats and people that are under this insurance plan to accept. It's not sustainable. It's just not. There are not enough healthy people coming into the system to support the program. So there needs to be something done. What the Republicans are trying to figure out is how can you do that by incorporating more of the free market and less of the government intervention in the system. Lee doesn't think it can happen through the free market. He believes that it could only happen with government intervention. The Republicans believe differently. Now, the original plan wasn't going to work because both sides, both moderates like myself and the Freedom Caucus, were against the idea of pulling back on essential health benefits on the moderate side, and the Freedom Caucus doesn't want any tax incentives going to anyone because they feel that if you give a tax incentive, it's just a government handout. So I think that this is all part of Trump's game. Trump has been considered to be a master negotiator. I am confident, I'm telling you now, I don't like the guy, you know this, but I am telling you now that I think he actually knew this was going to fail the first time and prepared for this to happen. Now, call me crazy. I know I've been wrong about 4,000 times last year, but
4,001.
4,001. Perhaps, have you ever thought about it? Maybe President Trump knew that as written, it wasn't going to pass. And that is why he asked Paul Ryan to pull it back, knowing that he was going to revisit this with some goodies for both sides and come out looking like a champ, as opposed to allowing Paul Ryan to get all the full credit for this legislation.
Well,
could happen.
A stretch, but
that's a stretch. But if I'm right, high five to me, don't you think?
Oh, you get a high five if you're right. And if you're wrong, what do you get?
Nothing. I'm used to the
4,002. Right. I got it. But listen, how bad of a black eye is this for the White House, given the fact that you touted that you would be able to repeal Obamacare, the fact that it does not get repealed, how bad of a stretch?
Zero. Look, Donald Trump is losing no fans among his base. He knows that. He promised his base all these things. He's going to go back to them and said, hey, you saw me. I went in. I fought hard, and he did. He was having rallies all over the country telling people that, they're not getting it done. I want them to get it done. So when he goes back and says, I tried, they didn't get it done, it's the best thing. Donald Trump loves to blame people for things that don't happen.
The thing
you
is,
couldn't put it in a better platter.
Is that the they is him and his crew, his party. That's who the they is. And we're pretty much watching infighting going on amongst themselves. And when you see that happening, you just kind of like lay back.
Real quick, I only got a couple seconds left, but I need to push it the rest of this week. You got some comments about the rest of this week, some things happening.
Oh, well, the biggest thing that's going to go down right now is what's happening with China. The president is going to have to sit down with Xi Jinping and discuss how he's going to deal with them on a host of issues. Currency manipulation, trade, this new THAAD system, the thermal high altitude area defense system that the Chinese are as much opposed to as the North Koreans are. All of these things are coming up against Donald Trump, along with the Syrian issue. I don't see how he gets out of this week unscathed.
Well, I think BronxNet should take a look at the budget. I think it's going to go through at some point either today or tomorrow. Pay attention to the raise the age legislation that a lot of liberals were pushing as far as getting juveniles out of the adult system. I think it's going to be a point of contention at the very end, and you may see raise the age only for nonviolent offenses. So we're going to see some major things happening out of Albany.
All right, we'll continue to take a look at that. That's why we bring you guys in every week. All right, see you next week. JC,
Good to be here.
Lee, thanks a lot. All right, take a quick break. Listen, we'll have more shows. Stay with us. We'll come right back right after this.